By the way, I just wanted to show off the awesome mouse pad that I got from Photos and Printing. Uh, you know, a class that I had in school, before summer. And yeah, I mean, I designed this in Adobe Illustrator. Then I brought it into Photoshop, and then I had this printed onto a mouse pad. I mean, it's your standard mouse pad. I mean, you know, works like a mouse pad. So, yeah. If you didn't know what it is, it's basically my road breach symbol and an Autobot symbol mixed. So yeah, there we go. Hey everyone, Road Breach here, and today I'm going to talk about some of the newest movies that I've seen that I haven't spoken about on my channel. So I think we should first talk about Power Rangers 2017. I didn't really like the beginning part with Jason being introduced. I thought it was a little bit too delinquent for my taste. I mean, it was supposed to be kind of rebellious, but I feel like they went a little too heavy-handed with it. But the tone and mood of the movie was pretty good. I loved how they were able to put a dark, gritty edge on the Power Rangers here. I thought it was pretty cool. And despite the kind of not-so-gritty name of the franchise, they did do a bang-up job on the presentation of it. The special effects were great. The fights weren't as prevalent to the TV show, though. I mean, this is Power Rangers after all. The fighting is a big part of the series. However, one thing that I can't get enough of is the suit designs. I love them. It might not be a perfect movie, but it was a pretty good reboot and gritty adaptation of the show. And in terms of reboot quality, it definitely scores above the Transformers, I feel. Now, The House with the Clock in Its Walls. This movie was pretty good. I didn't read the book by John Belair. It's a book-to-movie adaptation. Even without having to read the book, I did feel that it was a really good movie. And the special effects were just as good as the last movie I spoke of. While I did kind of cringe at Lewis trying to use his magic, that moment is pretty short, so it's not horrendous. But even without having to read the book, I do believe that the movie stands pretty well on its own. And, of course, I did like it. The Incredibles 2. Before the film rolled, the cast did mention that it takes a long time to make movies. And they did say that it was worth it in the end, and they told the truth. The movie was worth it. One thing that I didn't expect was for the characters to say things like crap or damn, but I guess that makes a bit of sense. The kids that originally saw the movie back then, pretty much the teens that watch the movie now. I did play the Lego game, and one thing I did like about it was the use of the other characters' powers in the levels that were originally with Elastigirl working solo. And one thing that I thought was kind of weird was Helen's lisp. If you go back and watch the movie, you can hear that Helen has a little bit of a lisp. And while they didn't get the Underminer, I did feel that it was a fantastic sequel, and I would recommend it to anybody who enjoyed the first movie. It was because of the trailer that I ended up absolutely adoring Venom. And this isn't because I liked the character originally, but I ended up loving the character, or characters. I ended up liking Venom as a character. And the special effects, fantastic. It was a visually appealing movie. The plot made sense. The villain, Riot, was also a symbiote that I hadn't heard of, And while the host of Riot didn't really seem all that scary or threatening, Riot definitely did seem like a pretty threatening symbiote, regardless of hosts. And while I did feel that it was a little sad that Eddie didn't get the girl in the end, the movie still ended on a good note. Even though it is a little bit questionable where Venom lies in terms of morals and if he's good or bad, I did think that this movie was enjoyable to watch. And some people said that it wasn't perfect. And while I do think that it might not have been perfect, I did think that it was a very good movie by Sony and much better than the train wreck that was Ghostbusters 2016. So I would definitely recommend this movie, and I gotta get myself a Venom action figure. Spider-Man Homecoming. I didn't originally see this movie when it came out in theaters, but I did definitely watch the movie when I saw the chance on Hulu, and I knew that I hated Deadpool, so I figured, hey, since I like Spider-Man now, why don't I watch Spider-Man Homecoming? And the movie was great. I keep going back and I watch it again and again, and I would still, if it weren't for one little problem, that being that I have to pay for the movie on Hulu. I hate Hulu now, but it was a great movie regardless. Although I really did not like MJ. MJ was I just really don't like her snarky attitude and obnoxious little quirk. She's my least favorite character from this movie. And Ned, I did think was a pretty funny comic relief character. And the one line in the movie where he says,
"What are you doing here? There's a dance."
I'm looking at porn.
Was hilarious. It was just as good as that erection joke in Robozuna that I posted on Twitter a while ago. And I really did love the Iron Spider suit at the end, although I had to see the Iron Spider suit in Infinity War and Endgame. I did really love the spider suit in Endgame, and the carryover from Homecoming to Endgame, where Peter says activate instant kill, I thought was pretty funny. And I loved the reference to Homecoming. But the Stark suit that Peter was using for most of the movie, I really loved the design of it. Heck, I even got the figure. And I really loved that Michael Keaton was playing the Vulture. I feel like that was a really good part for him to play in this movie. And I have in fact watched Beetlejuice and Men in Black 1. So, I do know 2 other movies that Michael Keaton starred in. There's something about him that I really like. I guess it's his wacky personality in other movies, and even though he is kind of the more wacky, kind of eccentric kind of character, at least from what I've seen, his part in Spider-Man Homecoming was pretty well done. He can be serious when he wants to, and he was pretty serious in this role. And I feel like his motivations were also really understandable. Damage Control was being a complete pain, and he needed to find some way to try and make a living, and Damage Control was getting in the way. So it makes sense that he would want to snatch these resources from battles that the Avengers had. Overall, Spider-Man Homecoming is a great Spider-Man movie. And before we move on, I just gotta say that there was this one time when I replied to this one tweet on Twitter when somebody said, "Which design do you prefer more?" And it was a choice between the Tobey Maguire trilogy and Spider-Man Homecoming. And I said that I actually quite liked both. And somebody replied to me saying, "You will survive the apocalypse." Well, okay then. I guess that's something good to know. It looked just as good as the original, if not a little better. Queen whatever a wanna be. I hope I said that right. That name kind of gives me a little bit of a doozy. Name is a little bit of a doozy to pronounce, but whatever. She had a voice that made me melt. And I wasn't expecting this movie to become somewhat of a musical, with Queen Whatever a Wannabe's Not a Villain song. And while I was a little bit suspicious of that, it turned out in the end that they did a complete 180, and I wasn't expecting Rex to be the villain. Oh, well, I mean, the movie's already been out for at least a year, so I'm pretty sure most of you have seen it. But anyway, I did love the joke that Marvel wasn't returning Warner Brothers calls, and it's kind of to point out the fact that Warner Brothers has been working with DC for a while, so that's what that means. And overall, the message boiled down to the dichotomy between brothers and sisters and how compromises should be made sometimes. And it was a good message. I did like it. And the rap number at the end in the credits, I thought was also pretty funny and also well orchestrated, I guess. I don't know. It was well done. I liked the Lego Movie too. Oh man, this was a fantastic cinematic Christmas present. The Cybertron scene was absolutely beautiful, and the approach in terms of the robot designs in this movie were also very well done. The half G1 accurate, half updated aesthetic was a fantastic way to go with this. And I loved all the familiar faces I were able to see on Cybertron in the battle scene. RC, Brawn, Ironhide, Ratchet, Cliffjumper, Soundwave, you name them. It was an absolutely gorgeous scene, and I loved it. And Michael Bay's movies, they definitely got blown out of the water right here. This movie wasn't overloaded like how Michael Bay's movies usually were. And John Cena's performance was fantastic in this. He was funny, and he was a really good actor, just like in Ferdinand. The action was thrilling. The main human character, Charlie, was a hottie. I am definitely awaiting a sequel. Also, I'm going to bring up this one little point right here. Random Black Gamer actually did mention that one of the execs did bring up the possibility of a romantic relationship between Bumblebee and another Autobot. It better be a fembot. It better be a fembot. Okay? But I did love this movie, and I am definitely waiting for that sequel. And it was just a fresh start for the Transformers franchise, and if you're sick and tired of Michael Bay's movies, watch this and enjoy the greatness that is Travis Knight. Travis Knight did a fantastic job, and I am waiting for that sequel. It will happen. I know it. It was a good movie. I didn't read the manga by Yukito Kishiro, but regardless of this being an adaptation, it stood on its own. It didn't need the manga to explain anything. And the world felt real. The special effects, of course, were good. Guns weren't allowed, which would suck for me because I am a gun enthusiast. But anyway, I did really like the main sport that's in this movie, Motorball, which is for the cyborgs of this universe. And like I said before, no guns are allowed, only blades. And while things are usually pretty peaceful in the daytime, things things pretty much go to hell at night with these murderers and all the hunter warriors, as they're called, going around killing each other. And Alita, even though her looks can be described as kind of verging on the uncanny valley, I wouldn't mind having a robot girlfriend like Alita here. She's tough, she's badass, she's pretty. The possible sequel that we might get from James Cameron actually isn't a bad idea, because I can only assume that the manga was really, really detailed, so of course it would make sense to break up the movie into pieces so it wouldn't be overloaded like, say, David Lynch's Dune. But I'm glad I went to this movie, and this also kind of makes me want to bring up some controversy around the Captain Marvel movie. There was the statement by Brianna Wu that pretty much whenever there's a main female in a movie or show, that people descend upon it with great anger. That's not the case. It just needs to be well written and not full of SJW politics. This didn't have SJW politics, and Alita actually went through some struggles here, even though she was already pre-programmed with Panzerkunst, which is the martial arts of the Berserkers, which is what she is. And I guess that's what I have to say about that. So, next. The movie started off differently, and I really liked the way that it started off. It started off with Will Smith telling his kids about the story of him being a genie, which then segues into the first musical number, Arabian Nights. And one thing that I can definitely say about this movie is that Will Smith's cover of some of these songs, I love him. I love him more than the original singer from the 1992, 94. I did think that they were better than the singer from back then. And Will Smith, he can sing. And the visual effects, of course, were great. And the musical numbers were very well recreated. And Princess Jasmine even got some new musical numbers out of this whole thing. 2 of them. And I did like those musical numbers. And while I didn't see a whole new world, I definitely did see something new out of this movie. So, that's what I have to say about that. Aladdin 2019 is a great recreation, and I would definitely recommend that you watch it. To be honest, I got kind of bored 30 minutes in, but it doesn't mean that this movie is horrendous. I just found it a little bit not as engaging. But this movie, of course, it did look pretty good, even though it had a lower budget than most animated movies, which I will get into one that I did like a little bit more. But other than that, I was surprised when one of the characters said pissed or damn. Like, I was pretty surprised that that happened. And while the movie's story was a little bit somehow both unengaging and all over the place, I didn't hate it. And I did definitely love the rap number at the end. And I liked it when Snowball mentioned Fanta, which, if you didn't know, is pretty much my favorite orange soda. It's pretty much one of my favorite drinks. And while I did find the movie kind of boring, I would still rather watch this over Infinity War, though. Infinity War is that bad to me. It is that dead to me. I hate it that much. But Secret Life of Pets 2, I would wait for it to come out on DVD. And I would definitely wait for it to go on clearance. And last but not least, Toy Story 4. I like that the movie gave us a quick recap of what happened in the subsequent films. And the original and the newer characters were also pretty charming. Even Gabby Gabby, the baby doll, she actually wasn't as disturbing as, say, the dummies. Which remind me a lot about Slappy from the Goosebumps movie. For some reason, he's just the most memorable Goosebumps character for me, in terms of the villains. But other than that, Forky's suicidal tendencies were a little bit disturbing, but I guess it makes a bit of sense when you think about it. Forky was originally a plastic spork that came to life via magic, but I did like his arc throughout the movie. He did find out what it's like to be a toy, and he did pretty much become the new favorite toy. And I guess for a little kid like her, it makes a bit of sense that a toy that she made would become her new favorite. And while I didn't really like the ending of Okay, geez, I won't spoil the ending. I'll just say, while I didn't really like the ending, I did think that everything worked regardless. The movie was great. It was a great sequel, and I would highly recommend that any old fans of the franchise should watch this movie. It was really good. There are at least 3 different movies that I want to see this year. That being Men in Black International, Dora and the Lost City of Gold, and, of course, Spider-Man Far From Home. These movies are mostly just of old franchises that I know because I've been exposed to them. It just seems like fan material for me. And while I didn't really like Dora all that much, even as a little kid, I do like the direction that this movie is going. Although, leaves me with a question. Why this franchise? That's a little bit odd, considering that the original target audience of the franchise was toddlers. And while the cartoon did have the problem of kind of talking down to its audience, I did really love the Nick Jr. games that the site had. And Dora and the Lost City of Gold just seems like something that I do want to see. Definitely. And and the newest trailer did kind of make fun of the old gimmick of what Dora used to be known for, mugging at the camera and asking us, "Can you say this? Can you say that? Do you know where the mountain is?" I do think that it is kind of funny to kind of go back on what people complain about and kind of poke fun at it, laugh along with everybody else. Now onto Men in Black International. Men in Black International has already had a little bit of controversy over a statement that Agent M, well, the actress of Agent M, said, that it should be women in black. And Men in Black is supposed to be kind of innocuous in this sense, because they don't specifically mean men. Men can also mean women in this sense. And while it is kind of ridiculous to try and mix up words, and it's like X-Men, they don't necessarily mean just men, because of course there is women in the X-Men. And I was thinking, hey, why not call it X-Force? And then I found out, oh, Deadpool already did that. What? But other than that, I am going to see Men in Black International because I do believe that it will be a good movie despite the controversy of what the actress of Agent M said. I really need to actually do do research and actors' names before I make these things, but whatever. And on to Spider-Man Far From Home. That is the movie that is the movie that I am most excited for right now. And as of this recording, it's pretty much 7 days away from release. And I will definitely see it. Even though I had a pretty bad taste left in my mouth after Avengers Endgame. Seriously, this movie is not as good as people were saying that it is. Like, the first half of this movie is pretty much just nothing. Basically nothing. It's basically like if I were to read a book and half of the book were to be just blank pages. That's basically what Endgame is. Half of it being blank. Pretty much nothing happening. But I am still excited for Spider-Man Far From Home. Because of my newfound love for Spider-Man, I am excited for it. But I still am not crazy about MJ. She is just... Seriously, like, what have you done? And I even recognize this actress from Shake It Up on Disney Channel. Well, she was a Shake It Up character. I believe she was Cece, I believe, from Shake It Up. But I'm just not a fan of this new MJ. Just snarky attitude, kind of annoying. I don't like it. But I guess that's all I have to say about movies for right now. So, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give a like, comment, and tell me what you think. So, I guess that's it. Thanks for watching, and gotta zoom.